Well, greetings to all educators, students, youth, and also all who are present in this online webinar. Hope all of you would benefit from what we are to share today. Well, myself, Joyce J. Bharati, daughter of Balachandran, would be talking on the very first SDG goal, which is no poverty. Okay, these are the contents of my talk today, which comprises of three parts, which are understanding, prioritization, and also measurement. So let us proceed with the first part, which would be on understanding. Okay, I believe all of us are pretty much exposed with the word sustainability, but are you really aware of its meaning or what is the point of it? Well, according to Brundtland Report, also known as Our Common Future, a publication released on 1987, which defines sustainability as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, that calls for concerted efforts towards building an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future for people and also our planet. Well, actually, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are also recognized as the global goals. In the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, it is comprised of 169 targets accordingly, which are integrated and they correlate to each other to end poverty, protect the planet, and also ensure that humanity enjoy peace and prosperity. And not only that, we are also able to claim accountability and responsibility to take necessary actions to achieve the goals by measuring the progress over time, provided with the alternatives that we take. Now we shall look into the purpose of sustainable development. All the 17 SDGs are categorized accordingly under those five key elements that you can see on screen, which is of people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and planet. We can develop and prototype creative solutions to the challenges we are faced with today and create a virtual simulation of a future world where all the 17 goals have been implemented and achieved. Okay, moving into part two, which would be on prioritizing. Okay, we'll be looking into one of the main SDGs we are focusing on today. Well, what is poverty? I'm sure we are well aware about it. Okay, it is basically a state or a condition in which a person or a community lacks the financial resources and essentials for a minimum standard of living, which simply means to be extremely poor. So, the priority goal we are looking into is SDG 1, no poverty, which actually aims to end poverty and um, possibly in all forms at every places, every single aspect. Okay, I would like all of you to watch this short video I have here. It's just more of like a simplified explanation regarding poverty, so let's watch it. All right. So, what we can know from the video that we just watched is that eradicating or putting an end to poverty is not just a task of charity, it's an act of justice and the key to unlocking an enormous human potential. But still yet, there's nearly half of the world's population that still lives in poverty and lack of food and clean water, which is killing thousands every single day of the year. And the aim is to feed the hungry, wipe out disease, and give everyone in the world a chance to prosper and live a productive and rich life. As to what causes poverty to take place, well, some of the common root causes would be the lack of good jobs, the first one there. This is the first reason a lot of people think about. When you don't have a good job, you aren't getting a good income. So, in many countries, traditional jobs like farming are actually disappearing. And the Democratic Republic of Congo is a good example where most of the population live in rural areas, stripped of natural resources from years of colonialism. And even in nations like United States, where many people do have jobs, but those jobs aren't paying enough. So basically, you just do live in hardship. Well, as for the second root cause of poverty is lack of education. Poverty is a cycle, and without education, people aren't going to be able to better up their situations. In many areas of the world, people aren't getting educated. The reasons vary. Oftentimes, families need kids to work where there aren't also schools that are close by, or girls aren't being educated because of the sexism and discrimination that exists, as all of us know, right? Well, as for the third one would be war, or I would say conflict. Conflict has a huge impact on poverty. In times of war, everything stops. So it's very difficult to get things going again, as foreign businesses and countries won't want to invest into the affected countries. So, for families and individuals, war and conflict can make it impossible to stay in one place. It is also very common for women to become the primary breadwinners, and they have to deal with many barriers like the sexual violence and also discrimination. Next would be the fourth one. According um, According to the World Bank, if I'm not mistaken, a global partnership, climate change has the power to impoverish almost 100 million people in the next decade or so. And we know that climate change causes drought, flood, and severe storms, and that can take down successful countries while pulling poor ones down even further. Recovering and extremely difficult as well, especially for agricultural communities where they barely have enough to feed themselves, let alone prepare for the next harvest year. It's just it's just complicated, you see. Well, the next point would be the social injustice that takes place, whether it's gender discrimination, racism, or other forms of social injustice. Poverty just follows. People who are victims of social injustice struggle with getting good education, the right job opportunities, and also the access to resources that can lift them out of poverty. Inequalities in income distribution and also the access to productive resources, basic social services, opportunities, and more as a cause for poverty. Groups like women, religious minorities, and racial minorities are the most vulnerable ones. Well, lastly, would be the lack of food and water. Without access to basic essentials like food, and water, it is impossible to get out of poverty cycle. Everything a person does will be about getting food and water. They can't save any money because it all goes towards their daily basic needs. And when there is no enough sustenance, they won't have the energy to work. They're also way more likely to fall sick, which actually makes their financial situation even worse. So, yeah, these are like these are the common root causes. There might be more in depth, but yeah, I see it's actually pretty much complicated. Okay, so now we shall look into part three, measurement, where I will explain about the facts and figures relevant to SDG 1. So as you can see, or as all of us know, the COVID-19 pandemic actually reversed the trend of poverty reduction with tens of millions of people in risk of being pushed back into extreme poverty. People living on less than $1.90 per day, causing the first increase in global poverty in more than 20 years. Even before the COVID-19 happened, baseline projections suggested that 6% of the global population would, would still be living in extreme poverty in 2030, which actually makes us miss the target of ending poverty. The fallout from the pandemic threatens to push over 17 million people into extreme poverty. And also, developing countries will actually face a very devastating social and also economic crisis over the months and years to come because with the pandemic pushing millions of workers into unemployment, underemployment, and working poverty, having a job also does not guarantee a decent living. In fact, 7.1% of employed workers and their families worldwide lives in extreme poverty in 2019, a positive decline compared to 2010, but the number is expected to rise in light of the long-term consequences of the pandemic we're facing right now. Therefore, young workers are twice as likely to be living in extreme poverty. Not only that, due to the amount of people being pushed into poverty, 71 million and above as of the COVID-19 implications, this gives a very highly negative impact due to the increased poverty as to job losses and economic lockdown, and then disproportionate, excessive or unbalanced impact on vulnerable groups, for example, the poor ones, you see. And yeah, even natural disasters are prone to exacerbate or I would say worsen the state of poverty. The amount of direct economic losses is just epic as it reaches up to $23.6 billion in 2018. So, with the COVID 19 pandemic, it pushed an estimated 71 million additional people into extreme poverty. So, it is a struggle to fulfill the most basic needs like health, education, and access to water and sanitation. Yeah, you just need more money to overcome everything. And yeah, according to the World Social Protection Report 2017-19, the Universal Social Protection, it seems only 45% of the global population is effectively covered by at least one social benefit, while the remaining 55%, which comprises of for about 4 million people, are left unprotected. So the lack of social protection leaves people vulnerable to ill health, poverty, inequality, and social exclusion throughout their life cycle. So, in all, what I would want to say is that by being mindful and equipped with the information that was just provided, together we can definitely end poverty in all of its forms with a good progress, actually. Hence, it's important to empathize. So, let's see what is the importance of empathy because empathy is something important. So, yeah, we would see what is the importance. All right. From a survey done in general, 9 out of 10 people find that they are better persons when they practice empathy, whereas 10 out of 10 people said that they benefit from people's empathy. Therefore, empathy is required to be instilled within ourselves because it helps us understand how others are feeling so we can respond appropriately to the situation. And as to how we can develop empathy is becoming in tune with others in hardship or any situation at all, so you move along with them. Nextly is to look for emotions. We should be able to identify an individual's feelings so that we can appropriately reciprocate and act according to that to provide a solution. Last but not least would be to imagine yourself being in others' shoes. So by doing so, we would be able to think of a holistic solution which can help progress the difficulty of those in poverty to a better or a situation at ease. Okay, with that, being a person who has empathy, things that we can do, like basic things to contribute, is to stay informed. Yes, you can follow your local news and stay in touch with the global goals online or any relevant social media pages. Next, what you can do is to find a goal one charity you want to support. So any help, big or small, it can actually make a lot of difference. So it's just a matter of supporting, you see. Then you can donate what you don't use. So local charities will give your gently used clothes, books, and furniture a new lives. And food can also be donated. So by donating, you are actually helping a lot. That's like the least we can do, but it helps out the most. You can also lend your voice to fight against extreme poverty by joining or supporting campaigns that are relevant to help out the affected people to curb the growing inequality. Hence, overall, what can we say is that half of the people are poor ones, and they too actually deserve the chance to have a happy and prosperous life, just like everyone else here. So, what we can do is that we can ensure social protection by providing access to healthcare and protection against unemployment. Not only that, from what you can see, it is vital that we make sure there's equal access for everyone to things such as basic services, labor and land, technology, as well as business and job opportunities. So, individually, what we can do about it is to think, to talk, is to dream about it, to write, to make art, to convey the messages, and finally to act on it by coming up with pragmatic solutions from whatever we have deduced earlier. And by doing so, we are practicing empathy as well. So, before ending my presentation, I would like to quote a statement by Dan Satchman, which says sustainable development requires human ingenuity. People are the most important resource. So, you and I are really very important in curbing this whole situation. So, it's important that we work together. Well, that's all from me today. Thank you for being all ears, and I really hope that all of you benefited from my presentation.